back now. A report by the government, which has been studying the patterns of general elections since 1957 till 2009, has found that though the total number of women contestants in 1957 was quite low at 45 compared to the more than 500 in 2009, interestingly, their success rate is nearly twice as much as that of males. Now, despite that, a 33% reservation for women's bill has still not been passed. Now, several organizations have come together and started an online campaign called Time for 33% hashtag as part of that, and they are mobilizing support both online and offline, so it can be passed in the upcoming session of the Parliament. One of the people who's working with that online campaign is Shella Rashid. She sends us her views on a video blog.
What needs to be understood clearly is that the Women's Reservation Bill is not demanding any privilege for women. It is only demanding a rightful share of women in the political process, which they have been deprived of. And this is a deeply structural problem, and it can only be corrected with the help of policy intervention. So this whole rhetoric of equality assumes that there is no violence against women, assumes that there is no labor discrimination against women, assumes that women have equal access to the public space and to public life, which is not true. And it's time to confront all these realities and give women their rightful share. If after 6 decades of becoming a democracy, the democracy has not asked itself why women are absent from political life, or why women have been excluded from political life, to be more precise, it is problematic, and this is something that needs to be corrected as soon as possible. And now is the time, because the nation has demonstrated anger at violence against women.
Alright, so less than a month to go. The campaign needs a lot of support, and to talk a little bit more about that, we're joined by Tina Sharma. She's a social activist. We're also joined by Amitabh Kumar, who is the media head for the Center of Social Responsibility, and also on the phone line by Kavita Krishnan, who's a Politburo member of the CPIML. Okay, Amitabh, I want to ask you first, why have you decided to start this campaign?
Well, it's time for 33%. It's been in the Parliament. The discussions are going on. It's been passed in the upper Rajya Sabha, and it's still not being tabled. This shows us clearly that the political will is missing. Although tokenism is done for women, they are never looked at as leaders, only as voters. And we saw it on 16th of December when all of us were on streets, that now is the time to bring gender to the mainstream. Women should be in Parliament, not just 33%, but 50%. And that was the reason why we got it here, that before the December session, it is essential that our politicians realize that all of the country is asking for it.
Amitabh, you know, I know this talk about reservation for women has been talked about a lot, but what really does it mean? What will bringing women, politicians into the Parliament actually do in terms of the kind of issues that it will open up for the public discourse?
Well, we are seeing that there's a lack of gender in policy making, in inclusive cities, and 33%, this number will ensure that there's organic growth of women leaders. To break the patriarchal and hereditary structures of political parties, it is essential that women are brought into politics, and there are new politicians. The new solutions which the Indian democracy is searching for lies within this sector as well.
It'll break many of the patriarchal mindsets in the Parliament, and of course that translates into outside. But Tina, what is really the problem? It's not as if women are not working with political parties. So what is really the problem? And parties say that 33% reservation for women in their parties is possible, but it doesn't translate into much more than that.
Very categorically, I would say that that's just ceremonial, and they just take, you know, party women in the party as, you know, you need 2 topi walas Muslim, and you need 2 pagdi wala sardars, and you need 2 sari wala women. That's it. I mean, orientation is lapsing in the political parties, and somehow they're not ready to take women on their heads. So this is the kind of scenario we see across party line, and I feel that you know, there's a political will which should come up and, you know, take women as a part of electoral portion also, which is lacking. So that is how we've been seeing political parties either adjusting women in the organization or adjusting in the lower bodies. Okay. So why can't we have women in the Parliament?
What are the challenges that, you know, women like you who were a part of political parties, what are the kind of challenges you face in getting tickets for yourself, for example?
Recent Times of India report says that, you know, winnability, which we've been talking about, I think Amitabh and me were discussing, 11% is the winnability for Indian women, and for men it is 6.4%. So winnability is a nuisance issue which all political parties party had been raising up, and somehow I feel that it's just a nuisance issue. And I strongly feel that, you know, social responsibilities or your domestic responsibilities, or in fact the monetary touts and the character assassination below the belt makes women sitting at home. It is increasingly making women differently, you know, going and sitting at home after serving many parties across the line. And I see a lot of women examples when I see them working for so many years, and then finally they go and sit at home. They realize that they will not get tickets. So that is how.
But is it enough just to get tickets? Kavita, if you can hear me, you know, Tina's talking about the fact that right now the biggest challenge they face is to actually get tickets from their party heads. But is just getting tickets enough for women?
Not at all. In fact, you know, the 33% demand is not for 33% seats within parties at all. Let me clarify that very clearly. See, the whole point was that, of course, representation within parties and the fight of women who are members within parties, that will continue. But the point is that to ensure that parties are forced to nominate women into seats that will then ensure the entry of women into assemblies and parliament. In order to ensure that, we need to ensure that seats are reserved for women. At least 33% seats are reserved for women, just as a certain number of seats are reserved for Dalits or for the SC/ST castes in India. The reason being that when you do that, then it means that that every party which contests that particular reserved seat has to field a woman candidate, and a woman candidate is bound to win, and therefore an elected women representative is bound to enter assembly and parliament. If you just say that parties must reserve seats for women, they may do that, but it may mean that they reserve the losing seats, the seats they're not likely to win, and so the actual entry of women into power happens. All right. This is what we are saying. Now, having said all of that, I must also say, look, reservation, 33%, and that seems so...
all right, we seem to be having some problems with Kavita's lines, but Kavita's audio line, but I think essentially the point being, all three of them have made, the 33% reservation for women needs to be brought in the parliament. Do track that hashtag online to try and find out how you can support and try to make that happen in the upcoming parliament session.